Carlton King, the former Scotland Yard Special Branch and MI6 officer and the author of Black Ops.
I was undercover for Special Branch in a jihadi organisation.
If you'd like to help Carlton keep producing the Black Spy podcast and receive episodes and information that's only available to Carlton's special Patreon agents, then you can donate as little as £3, €4 or $5 a month by signing up with Patreon. See the Black Spy podcast notes or Google Patreon Black Spy podcast and pledge your monthly amount. You can even win the opportunity to be a guest on the show. Thanks for listening. And don't forget to subscribe for free.
My name is Carlton King, and welcome to Black Spy Podcast, the show that lifts the lid and shines a light on the world of secret intelligence, national security, and armed governmental personal protection, but connects that with the geopolitical world in which we all live, and explains to you, the listeners, and by the way, I hope you all subscribe so you never miss an episode, how my world and your world intertwine. So today's guest is a great guy. I know you're going to find him fantastic, and it's an area that I've wanted to talk about for quite some time. And maybe you don't originally or straight away see the synergies between this and the secret world, other than maybe in the Bond movies when you get the croupier or whatever, so I'm giving away a little bit to you right now. But this man has been involved in many different fields, but, you know, I guess I can encompass it by saying, am I right, Carl, if I say gambling?
Gambling, gaming industry.
Gaming industry. See, this is the professional. Straight away. He doesn't say gambling, he said the gaming industry.
Right, yep.
You see, that's how they work, you see. Those are the systems, how they work. So, without further ado, let me introduce you. Carl, introduce yourself, my friend.
Yeah, I'm Carl. I've been in the gaming industry for almost 30 years now. Started living in Jersey. My father had the business. He's getting bigger, and he asked me to come and work for him. So packed up my life in Jersey, moved over, and eventually took the business over from him. Fantastic.
So, you were living in Jersey. Now, you were living in Jersey, why? Because you're a wild kid, just run away?
No, I actually trained to be a chef.
Oh, right.
So I went over to work in the hotels in Jersey, and then realised chefing's not for me. Went into the front of house side restaurants, which, you know, and there's a lot of similarities between the restaurant world and the gaming industry, because you're, you know, front of house, meeting people, interacting with them, and you know, just seeing, you know, making them happy.
Oh, brilliant. You see, now, I'm a foodie. I love food, and one of the guys I'd love to have on the show would be James Martin. But as you've been a chef as well, that's great. I'm happy with that. Great thing. So you're in the gaming industry after being a chef, and then after being front of house, gaming industry. What do you have to learn first and foremost, and what type of the gaming industry was it?
The main side of it, it started off as video games. Then we moved into the gaming machines, fruit machines, as they're known. Pool tables, jukeboxes, etc. But it's the jumping through the hoops to actually get a licence to actually supply these machines. That's the problem.
Right. So, can you explain to me why there's, you call them the hoops, why there are these sort of big hoops? Why is that?
I think they look at money laundering really, and where's the money coming from. But I say, when we first did it in the 90s, it was like you're writing a book really. They want to know your ins and outs, your family's ins and outs, and, you know, their children's ins and outs, just to show, you know, you are a legitimate business person.
Right. So straight away we have similarities with the secret world, because in order to work in the secret world, so when I was in Special Branch in MI6, you have to basically get what you call vetted. And in Special Branch and in MI6, you get the highest level of vetting in the United Kingdom. It's called developed vetting. And what that means is somebody from the MOD comes, sits down with you, you fill out a whole host of paperwork, talks about what you've done, why you've done it, where you've been. And when I first joined the branch, they went, because I was living in Germany previously, they went to Germany, spoke with people in Germany who I had. They want to know who your wife is, who her parents are, who her grandparents are, who your grandparents are, where you come from, and you go all through the line. They want to check out every little bit, because obviously in that world you can be blackmailed if you were, say, a druggie, or in the old days if you were gay. You know, that was a reason that you could be blackmailed. So there's a whole host of issues that can be utilised against the person, and then in my game, obviously that's used by the enemy, which is another state, to what we call to utilise you as an agent for them, which means that then you supply them with information. So that's how it works in my world. So when they're looking for this information from you, what are they trying to prevent in their actions of gathering this information from you?
They're trying to stop the criminality in the game. You know, in the 50s, 60s, there was a lot of London gangsters as such, the craze.
This is what I wanted to get
Yeah.
to. Okay, so explain how the London gangsters got into this game.
Well, they just bought them. They had the machines made. They'd go to the pubs, clubs, say, you're having one of these machines. It wasn't, you know, do you want one of these machines? I actually had a good friend who was supplying machines in the Midlands at that time, and he actually had a car full of these London gangsters turn up at his house. And his wife actually said, look, Harry, we need to get out of this. We can't be having this. And when they pulled out of his driveway, it was a big flash, brand new car. They drew it into his wall and then just drove off. You know, it was no questions. It was just, you're stopping doing this. We're going to take this area. But he carried on doing it 50 years until he died.
Right. So were they just threats and they didn't carry those threats out? Or
I'm not sure if they would have took it further, because a lot of people would have said, you know, better do as they're told. You know, these are nasty gangsters. You know, and took it from there.
Were they famous gangsters, or were they sort of?
I don't think they were the Crays or the Richardsons or anything like this, but they were, you know. Yeah, gangsters.
They were trying to handle it. Because I know with the Crays and that, if you didn't accept that, you know about it.
Yes.
Yeah. Right, the Richardsons, you know about it.
Yeah.
So these are probably wannabes trying to break the way.
Trying to move into the Midlands or from the south.
Yeah, because they've been pushed out probably out of London area. That's probably what it would be. Yeah. So when it was controlled by gangsters, well, two questions. What era would you say ended the control of gangsters?
Well, I know it was still happening. Not so much gangsters in the 90s. What it was a lot of there was a lot of machines brought over from Ireland, poker machines that said, you know, for amusement only. But they actually, you played it, clocked up credits, and then you go to the barman and say, I've got this many credits in there, pay me out.
All right. Okay.
And these machines were illegal in the UK, always have been.
Right.
But these people from Ireland were coming over and they were getting other companies, setting up companies to just supply these.
Now, when you say these people from Ireland, that sounds a little bit like these people from Ireland. I don't know who they are. Or were they in the field that I would have something to do with?
Most probably, yes. Yeah. I say that's what I'd say. I couldn't say hand on heart 100%, but the chances are
Republicans.
Yes, yeah. But we actually had a workshop, and in the next workshops to us, there was actually one of these companies that had all these machines. The police turned up to raid it, and there must have been about 200 or 300 machines in there, and they just walked away from that. So, you know, and if these machines were, you know, over £1,000 each as such, it's a lot of money to walk away from.
Absolutely.
But then you look at, if they've walked away from that, how much money have they actually made?
Correct. Well, as I said, there's always synergies when we look closer at my world and the world of the guest, and I'll tell you for sure, these guys were into all types of areas. I'm talking now Republicans, and don't get me wrong, also loyalists. You know, were jumped because they saw the Republicans were making money. Let us jump in and make money as well because it helps our cause.
Definitely,
You know, so it was a free for all. I mean, as you know, they were into red diesel. They're into a whole host of areas.
Yes.
They're into, which made them money for the struggle, and then they buy their weapons in America or in Boston,
Yes.
Bass, and with all their American Irish people who'd help them bring the struggle back to the United Kingdom. So that's how these things function. So, to be truthful, in many ways, you're never really that far away from the secret world, even though you don't know it. So that's in that context. The other thing that I was interested in when you said about the gangsters was basically how it, because you use like a past tense in many ways, so it was cleaned up. Do you know how that happened?
It was, there used to be the Gaming Commission, used to be based in Greenock in Scotland.
Okay.
They're the ones who brought in all these forms you had to fill out, and you have to, all your personal information. It's a bit easier now to get a licence. It's through the Gambling Commission, who are based in Birmingham, I believe, now.
Right.
It's less money to actually do your application. There's not as many forms to fill in, but they've got this thing that if you don't fit their criteria, they refuse your licence and they still take your money from you for your licence application for the time they've put in processing that.
Yeah. So you see, what you've got then is you've got a system of control in terms of looking at you, and behind the scenes as individuals looking at what you've written down and what you've done, and then presumably if what you're not saying isn't true, it then may be handed to the police if there's obviously criminal aspects to it, and so on and so forth. If that's not the case, and you are a legitimate individual and you get your licence, what's to stop the other element that I think has always been there, and one of the reasons why I wanted to do gambling, which is money laundering? What's to stop that once you've got your licence?
There's nothing really.
Right.
All you can do, I suppose, you could report it to the Gambling Commission, but they seem to want to punish the legitimate people rather than go chasing the people who are doing it wrong. The wrong way.
Because it's easier, maybe. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. It's easy to go and do your inspections on those. Looking for same with the VAT and that. When you pay the VAT, they'd rather look at you than go and chase someone because you're the easy target because you're there in front of them.
Mm-hmm. You see, it's quite interesting because President Trump bought a big gambling casino, and it was said, alleged. Don't want Trump to have a go at it, that his dad came in one day with something like $7 million, put the $7 million in to cover the business, and basically somebody played but lost because it was never meant to win, and then that's your way of cleaning your money.
Yes.
Your money's clean, job's a good one. And that went through all the time, and obviously many organisations utilise that, be they criminal, be they terroristic, be they intelligence in orientation, to get money, clean money from dirty money. And I know that's what the Colombians were trying to do years back, and now it's going to be the Mexicans, and obviously the Americans are doing that all in the drugs game, because that's a game that makes a lot of money. So the interesting thing is that what I'm saying is you're never going to defeat that in that game.
No, it's always going to be there. And what you were saying about the laundering of the money, that still goes on in the casinos today.
Right.
People will come in and they'll buy chips, may play a couple and then go and cash out then, and they've got their winnings as such, and it's clean, like say, clean money now.
Yeah. So you've been also in that game, haven't you?
Yes.
What's the difference between that and the machines? Which is an easier way to make a living, or?
It's easier to. I suppose it's easier to make a living in the casino because you're actually getting a salary for doing your work. There's no commission. At the time when I was doing it, there was no tips or anything either. Right. Whereas the fruit machines, you have to find the clubs, pubs, and at that time as well, you could only rent the fruit machines to the club or pub. Whereas now you can do it on a profit share. Yeah. You have to take 20% out for the Game and Gambling Commission for what was the licence fee before. So it's. The casino, and I say it was enjoyable as well working.
It was enjoyable, right? What was it?
It was just the buzz. Someone coming in, and it's you against them. Yeah. You're there to take their money. You've got to do it with a smile on your face.
No, hang on, that's interesting. You're saying it's you against them.
Yeah.
Now, okay, so I've been into Monte Carlo. I've been in various other places where they do gambling. I was in Macau. In just off from Hong Kong in China, which is now China proper, and I saw gambling at a level that I've never seen before. I mean, I wasn't gambling at Ace and I was working. And I saw this guy, he had a bag, literally a bag. Well, actually, to be truthful, his wife or girlfriend or whomever she was, a Chinese guy, Chinese lady, had a bag, and it wasn't even chips. It was notes, RMB, Chinese currency, that must have been 1,000, maybe more than 1,000, maybe 10,000. And basically, all he was doing is he'd have a spin, and he just throw 10,000, just money, not even chips, just money. Bang, and he'd go to he'd lost. Boom, throw another 10,000. Yeah. And whilst I was there watching for about 3 minutes, he must have got through, hundreds of thousands. Just throwing it on. Yeah. Now, there's no challenge there. Is there not? Because I think it's just a machine, isn't it? Just spinning and...
Yeah, you as a croupier, you're paid to take the money from the customer. They do play cash on the table. Used to see it on, Friday and Saturday nights, mainly when the Chinese restaurants are closed. A lot of Chinese in there. Yeah. But when they're playing cash on the table, that puts again, is that so they can launder that money?
Which is I thought might be the case. Actually. Yes. Yeah, which I thought might be the case.
But it's you get taught when you're doing your training for a croupier to spin to sections. If someone's won big and they're, everyone all of a sudden's crowding these certain section numbers, by slowing the wheel down. Spinning the ball so it doesn't do as many revolutions.
Oh, right. Yeah. So you can make that ball working. So I didn't realise. I thought it was just pure chance. It's not then.
No. There is some chance in there. There was a girl who worked in the casino I worked in. She actually got sacked. They made up something why she got sacked, but what it was, somebody played the number to a maximum. The bet was about £4,000. It hit, and with his stake back, it paid just over 40,000.
Nice.
And of course, what he done, because usually they'll leave the same bet on the table.
Yeah.
She spun the ball again without slowing down the wheel or anything. Hit the number again. So he walked out with 80 odd grand, and they actually dismissed her. They never dismissed her for that. But they dismissed her for other things.
Do you think that they thought she was in cahoots with him?
Yes, 100%.
And do you think she was in cahoots?
No, definitely not.
No, but they thought she was.
Yeah, because this girl, she actually done her training with me. I trained with her at the same time. Right. And she was straight ass. But one of the pit bosses actually got dismissed as well. But he had something to do with not saying, I'm going to turn a blind eye to this. Yeah. What it was he'd pay for him tickets for the to get a box at the football, or so it was, and that was found out. So let
me ask you something, because this is listen. This is why I love the show, because what we want to try and do is teach you something. But believe me, not negative things. We don't want you going in gambling next week.
Definitely not. No.
But this is interesting, right? So what you're saying to me is that you could become in cahoots with somebody because they thought she was.
Yes.
So obviously there was a possibility that is the case. You could come in cahoots with somebody, and you could work a system that you could win.
Yes.
Is that true?
That's true. Yes. Yeah. And it can be seen. There's several things they can do on the roulette. One thing's doing what they call top hatting, where you've got your cash chips and then you've got your normal colour chips.
Right.
And what they'll do is, as the balls drop in, they'll be still placing bets after you've said no more bets. So then you're trying to take their colours off the table, but because they've got the cash chip there, you're only taking their coloured chips off.
But how can they place bets when you said no more bets? I don't understand.
Because you're trying to, and that's what the pit boss is there for. And the inspector, he's there to say, remove this bet, that bet. Because you've got so much going on, because you've got to... when the people are, if there's a lot of people especially playing on the table, you've got to straighten the plats up. So, it's not slightly out. So... it's got to be central on the number.
Gotcha.
Because if it's too close to the line, they could say, that's a split.
Yes.
Instead of being on the number itself.
Right, so you can split two sides.
Yeah, so you could go like between, say, 16 and 17. You could put it on the line in between 16 and 17, and that pays half the odds.
Right.
It pays
So I didn't realise that. Right.
Yeah, so it's...
all right. So basically, then, that people are still going to be putting bets on. The specialist guy might be waiting until the last moment to put his bets on. Yeah?
Yeah.
And so, because he's got that sort of experience, the pit guy's looking and thinking, that guy knows what he's doing,
Yeah.
will prevent that one. And does he have to say it before it comes in?
Yeah,
Or
he'd say remove those coloured bets.
right,
Like,
before it's actually stopped.
Oh, it could be stopped, but he could.
Well, he can still
as
do
long
that.
as long as he said, you know, what the ball's, even if it's just about to drop,
Yeah.
these bets, you know, need to be removed. If
Right.
the ball drops, he will still remove those. The inspector and pit boss will
Oh, right, okay.
together.
And everybody accepts that. That's just the house rules.
It's just the
or-
rules. They don't like it. You know,
Right.
they'll argue, especially if it's that number's hit.
Yeah, really.
But as I say, they're only taking their colour off. Then a lot of the time they can leave the cash chip on there.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so it's...
Well, sorry, can you explain to the listeners and me the difference between a colour and a cash chip?
Right, colour is you'd go in and ask for, say, £20 worth of chips.
Yeah.
And they'd give you 2 stacks of chips.
Yeah.
You know, it could be red, green, whatever.
Yeah.
Then if you get a win, what they'll do is they'll pay you... You could ask for cash chips.
Yes.
You know, so if you're going to cash them out, you wouldn't take your coloured chips to the
Right,
cash desk
right.
because they're for that table. So if somebody else comes in and wants to play, you know,
Yeah.
you've not got to wait until the cash desk brings your chips back.
Yeah.
They'd pay you in cash chips.
And the reason for chips is so you don't have money sitting there. Is that or, I
Yeah,
don't know.
the money goes into a drop box on the table.
Yeah.
So somebody coming in with cash and say, you know, either £100 worth of chips, you'd count the money onto the table so your inspector can see and he notes.
Yeah.
So at the end of the night, they've got a rough idea what's in that
What
box.
should be in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this is fascinating field. So actually, if I don't want to use the word a good gambler because I've always been of the mindset, and years ago I saw Max Wall. For those who are not in the UK, you probably never heard of him, and even for the youngsters, you probably never heard of him. He was I guess a Cockney, you could best say. A Cockney guy who used to have strange trousers on, used to do a silly walk. But I remember him doing one skit where he walked into it wasn't a casino, it was a horse racing gambling. And he said, I've seen 4 windows for paying in and only 1 window for paying out. So I'm keeping my money in my pocket.
Yeah.
Because of what he's basically saying is the house always wins.
Yeah.
But you're telling me, actually, that a good gambler, is it right, the word good, can win if he knows or she knows the systems, particularly if in the cahoots with somebody.
If you're in cahoots for someone, definitely.
Yeah.
But there's, like I say, there isn't a good gambler. You know,
Right,
there's
okay.
I think it's more a lucky gambler.
Right.
You know, they'll always come out and say, I've won this much, I've won that much. But they'll never say how much they've actually
Lost.
used to win that.
Gotcha.
You know, we used to have it in the fruit machines in the snooker club. Person come in, they put £300 or £400 in the machine to win a £200 jackpot, and they'd be happy with that because they've won the jackpot. And I don't know if it's the lights flashing.
Yeah.
And I do feel sorry for some people. You know, they come in, put £1 in the machine, win a jackpot straight away because that's got.
You feel sorry for him?
I do, yes, yeah.
Explain
Yeah.
to your listeners.
Well, you know, if anyone ever comes to me and says, "How can I win on that machine?" I say, "Well, the only way you can win is keep your money in your pocket." You know, it could cost me. It cost me a customer, but I wouldn't love like it on my conscience to have somebody. You know, I've said to them, you know, I'll do this, I'll do that, and then he's put all the money in the machine, then come back to me and say it didn't work. You know, it's it's, the best way is to keep your money in your pocket.
So this guy who comes in, he's a gambler or isn't a gambler. It's me.
Yep.
I put my £1 in. I win £400.
Yep.
Why do you like me? What's
Well, what it is, the flashing lights, it's not that I like you, it's now you're going to become a regular customer.
So you're saying I'm hooked now?
Because, you've put £1 in.
It's
so
like
you
a big hit with drugs.
Yes.
I've been hit for the first time,
Yeah,
so
and
now I'm
you
going to
think
keep coming
it's
back.
going to be every time you put a few quid in, and then that few quid, you know, 20 quid, 30 quid, and then you're putting your wages in there.
Yeah.
And it's a shame.
And you've seen that?
I've seen that, yes.
What, many times?
Quite a few times, yeah.
Right.
I had a friend who used to drink in this snooker club. He used to play... it was a roulette video-based machine. He put, I think, £300 in there. And later that night, as I say, he was a friend.
Yeah.
He phoned me up and he says, "Look, Carl," he says, "I've put all my money in this machine. Can I have it back?" And I says, "Look, Ray," I says, "I'm really sorry, but I can't do that for you." I says, "Because if I do that for you," I said, "and whoever goes puts money in the machine, they're going to ring me up and say, 'Oh, can you give me the money back? I put too much money in there.'" You know, at the end of the day, I'm a businessman.
Absolutely,
you know,
absolutely.
but I'm not a corrupt businessman, you know, if people, you know, and I'm honest with people, and I'll say, if they say to me, how do, you know, can I win? I'll say, you're best keeping your money in your pocket, or even put it in the bank at the rubbish interest rates, rather you probably make a
so
little
at the
bit
end
more
of the
money.
day, what you're telling me is there isn't a good gambler. You can't. If you're in cahoots, yes, you can see that.
Yeah.
But as a general rule, right, I'll tell you what I'm thinking of. I've now heard that there are these, and I think the biggest gambling companies in the world, who are doing paddy power and all this sort of business. What they're doing is they're giving people free turns or free on football, free bets or something like that. And I'm hearing people come to me and say, you know, I get a free bet on this. I can't lose because it's a free bet, and I make money and I've come away with thousands.
Yeah.
Is that not true? Or?
But what they have to say that it was a free £10 bet, for instance, and you win, you know, 5-1, so you got £60.
Yeah.
You can't withdraw that 60. A lot of the time, you can't withdraw that £60 straight away. It's got to be recycled so many times. So you know, it might be 10 times your stake before you're allowed to withdraw it.
Yeah.
And the chances are
that you lose.
Yes. Yeah. But you know, say the gambling side of it, bookmakers and that, say it's completely foreign to me as such. You know, it's a lot of the bookmakers now, they're not bothered. You know, they'll open up even if there's no horse racing on, because they've got these linked video fruit machines, roulettes, pokers, all built into one machine. And that's the thing at the moment. That's the problem. They're not being regulated, I don't think.
Right.
You know, people are in there all day and they'll put their money in. Yeah. Whereas there was a thing. Because now what they'll do is they put a little advert on the bottom of the thing saying gamble responsibly, know your limits. Yeah. But
they don't want you to know your limits.
Why put all these offers out and say know your limits? You're encouraging somebody to gamble. Sure. You're not.
So what you're basically saying is, even if somebody does win, and you think somebody can win from those £10 bets?
Yeah, they can do.
Yeah.
But usually what they'll do, because it's a free bet, then they'd put the £60, say, on a horse to win, not just a part of that stake, you know, just to keep doing the stake, leaving the winnings there, and just using that original £10. But yeah, I just think it's wrong, and there's too many adverts on the telly for that, and I think that's really driving people to gamble, because it makes them look as it's an easy way for money.
And we've heard recently of people killing themselves.
Yes.
Because they basically commit suicide because they haven't told the wife. They spent their they spent all the money.
Yeah, credit cards.
You know, they've got no money.
Yeah.
The house is gone, this is gone, wife doesn't know. Right, let me ask that question, because I just said wife. Are women gambling on the same level?
I think there's a lot of women now, what they're doing is gambling at home, online gaming. Right. Especially bingo. You see it on the daytime telly. Every other advert, you know, in the day, loose women or whatever it is. Yeah. It's Foxy Bingo, you know, something else bingo. And I'd say a lot of women.
So what they've done is they've created games for different genders.
Yes.
That's what you're saying. Yeah. Because I notice the football now, you can basically gamble on anything.
Oh, yeah.
How many corners? Will a fella fall down in 2 minutes? Whatever it might be.
How quick for the first throw in. And
So, I was watching something the other day, and it was basically the Premier League when it first came in. It was talking about one of the great Premier League players. I don't need to say the fella's name. And basically, to cut a long story, he said it himself. Cut a long story short, though, he said he must have wasted like £2-3 million. Right? Gambling. He couldn't help himself. Gambling. That actually didn't bother me that much. It bothered me for him. Obviously, I felt sorry for the fella. But what bothered me was he was saying he had a bet on his game.
Yeah.
Now, let me say that again. He had a bet on his game. And he had bet on a game in which he's playing that they would win 3-1 or something like that it was. And then he said, and this is what I found interesting, he said, we'd scored 2 by half time. It was 2-1. And I didn't have time to say to the lads, this is what he said, you know, let's just hold back a bit. Now, what does he mean by that? Let's just hold back a bit. Is he saying to the lads, boys, I've got a bet on here, and if you, because it was going to cost him something like, he said 120 odd grand or something like that if he lost this bet.
Yeah.
And so he said, I didn't have time to say it to the lads. So if he'd have said to the lads, hold on, fellas, we just need to sit back now and not score any more goals until later on in the end, and then we can put one more in, because otherwise we're going to lever these more than what I need it for my bet. He was saying it as though they were in the know of that process.
Yeah.
Now that puts a completely different spin on football, because this guy can decide, that shot's on there, I'm not taking that shot because I need the bet to come through.
Yeah, and he's going to lose out, yeah.
Have you heard of this?
I have seen it on TV, especially now with the way kickoffs are, where they just can boot the ball usually straight out to the wing.
Yeah.
So you can actually bet on how long before the first throw-in is. So if you could, there's nothing to stop you, kicking the ball. You're taking the kick-off, kicking the ball straight out, and you've won the bet.
Yeah.
It might not be massive odds, but if you're putting that amount of money on there, it's a nice little bonus.
See, to me, it would be a no-brainer that no footballer or family can bet on football.
Yeah.
That's what it should be, to my mind. That's what I would say if I was running this. But then I guess, how do you police that?
I think it's pretty impossible unless you've got someone, loose lips, friendship sort of thing. But you see it regularly with the cricket. There was a thing with the a few years back with the Indian cricket
IPA,
thing. And it's it's rife. And I think
IPL,
there's a lot more of it goes on than we actually know about. Because I think the EFL and the FA are a bit of a closed shop.
Yes.
And they don't want getting this getting out, because it then brings bad on
on the sport. But I was surprised when he said it. He said, I didn't have time to say it to the fellas. And I thought to myself, hang on, what are you saying? Are you saying they're all in on this? Not necessarily in on the bet, but that maybe they do it and I'll do it for you, as we go along. I mean, it sounded, don't get me wrong, he's stopped playing, but so it may have happened back in the 90s and doesn't happen now. I don't know. But how he just said it was, I thought, well, hold on. I could see how that could be advantageous for you. You could treble your wages every time, because you're the one making sure it happens. Frightening. And then every mistake that a goalkeeper makes thereafter, you might think
hold
on, This is what. But it's incredible. So we've looked at some of these elements of how gambling kind of functions, and we've looked at the negative of gambling. Are there positives of gambling?
To be honest, if I'd say there are no positives. It's positive if they win, but again, that's a negative because they've won and they think they can, do it regular. So I'd say there are no positives in gambling.
It's positive for you, obviously.
Oh yes, Oh, it was.
You're making money. You're making money. But what I mean is, are there positives in terms of, I don't know, let's say the macro element. So let's say, remember a few years back, I recall it actually, it was because I took the person to Iraq, the minister. I took her to Iraq shortly after the war had ended. I was there during the war, and shortly after the war had ended, she was the business minister. And of course, all wars are about money, so you want to make money, right? So she's Secretary of State for Business, so she went out to that. Great lady, fantastic. She went out, what money can we make now we've taken part in the Iraq war? So we go out, I take her to various places to see various people, think systems are set up in place. It's all dangerous, it's all set up, because it was going to rat shit, I'll use that word. But we got talking about this gambling, and I'll tell you why. Because Blackpool was trying to put in, and I think it was Trump, in fact, who was doing it, was trying to be like Las Vegas.
And the super casino.
Correct, yes. Super casino. Yeah. And she, obviously business, was involved in this process. And she said, I don't want it. It's no good. But I said, Blackpool's falling apart, this will be good for people with business. When you go to Las Vegas, you see, that said, you only see the glitzy side of it, don't you? You're not seeing the down and out side of it, you're seeing the glitzy side of it. And you see the money it brings to the economy. So my perspective, when just looking at it that way, was, well, would this not be good for our economy? we bring people in from Europe, we can bring people from wherever, and Trump's saying he's going to do this, that and the other, what he was doing, because he was going to put all the money up. Would this not be good for us? She was on the vid that it would make a lot of people gamblers and therefore would be negative, which I totally and utterly in accordance with. But the bigger part of that story, the macro, was these would have brought to an area that is depressed a whole load of jobs. So is that not positive?
I don't believe it would have bought jobs for the people in that area.
Interesting.
They'd bring them, because it's a new super casino, they want the best dealers. They want the best of the best.
Right.
And like South Africa's massive for casinos.
Right.
And it wouldn't surprise me if they get, people over from South Africa,
Right.
from London, from Birmingham, Manchester, because to me, Blackpool now is, they're brushing, the people, brushing a lot of people up there, on the benefits.
Yes.
And putting them up into the hotels because they've got the, surplus of hotels.
Correct.
And that's what they're doing it for. I can understand that. But I just think putting it in if they put it, say, next year they do it and put it in Blackpool, I think that's going to create more sorrow.
Right.
Because it's going to be the people when they get the dole money, the gyro. Because you can't say to somebody,
gamble.
you're just going to go and gamble the money. You can't say to them, you can't go in. Because it's, you go and you sign up for your membership, 24, I don't know if they do it on the day now, but you used to wait 24 hours and you'd be a member. There's no paying to be a member or anything.
So she was right.
Yes. Yeah.
Because they were going to bring a whole lot of machines like yours, slot machines, and put them in, and it was going to be, like you see these Americans just put money in. It was going to be that type of thing. And obviously I've probably casinos as well.
Yes.
And because he had a big old drawing, didn't he, an architectural perspective of how it would look, and it looked great. And it looked as though the whole area would have been cleared up and looked beautiful.
Yeah.
And I guess I fell for some of the glitz on that.
Yeah.
But I was thinking also that some of the locals would reap the benefit from this. As you mentioned right now, we're putting people in that used to be called the DHSS people into hotels because there's no room. Those hotels would have been used to bring in the gamblers and put them in there, and like in Las Vegas. That was my perspective. But you're probably right. The perspective is that what would have happened is the people who down on the luck anyway would try and increase their opportunities
because it's there.
Because it's there and fall foul.
Yes. Yeah.
So the move was positive from a man in the industry.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, interesting. I'll take my hat off to her. She's a nice lady anyway, the minister. She was she's good as gold. I didn't want to mention any names of that.
Of course.
And she knows who she is.
Yeah.
But I don't want to mention her name. But fantastic. See, it's interesting how do you get an insider's view. So it's given you a good life.
Yes. Yeah.
But you would say, or what would you say?
Other people might say you've had quite a good life off other people's misery.
Right.
Which, I've not, I'm offering it. There's a service there.
Yes.
I'm not pushing the people to do this.
Yeah.
Whether I put the machine, if I never put the machine in there, somebody else would. So it's always going to be there.
Yeah.
So, do I regret doing it? No, I don't. But, and that's why I say, if people say to me, how'd you win? Keep your money in your pocket.
So you actually give them the advice? That's what you're basically saying.
Because when I've been repairing a machine, someone come and, you must know all the ins and outs on this, And I say, but it's, you just keep your money in your pocket. That's the best way to go. And people always on about the percentages on the machines, it might say 85% or 90% payout. People think they're going to put £100 in, win 90 at least, so they're not losing all their money.
Yeah.
But this is done on thousands and thousands and thousands of spins, and it just falls lucky. You could play the machine and win 2 jackpots back to back.
Yes.
Not very often, but it is possible.
Yeah.
But it's thousands. Like you could stand and put the £400 or £500 in, you will not win the jackpot because of the amount of cycles it's actually done through in the programme.
And does it? This comes to my mind straight away. Does it have to pay out at some stage? Is there a legal parameter that says you must pay out X amount of times?
No.
There isn't?
There's not, no.
So in other words, you can make it never pay out?
Oh, no, you can't make it not pay out at all.
Right, okay.
On your machine, any machine that's legally supplied in the UK has to have a percentage of payout percentage.
Right, okay.
But as I say, because, I think the highest one's probably 94%, what they say in the bookmakers. But if they were paying 94% out on everything that goes in, they're not machines in there.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
But it's, as I say, it's just the amount of cycles it actually does to get that to that percentage. And it's all up and down. It's all up and down. It's not like saying you don't put £100 in, win 90. It's done on thousands and thousands of plays.
So the reason why I ask you this is because we're now in the modern era, as well, everybody, whoever lives is in their modern era. But you know what I mean? Now you've got computerisation, algorithms, processes, and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
I can remember those machines coming out which were basically like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire type thing, where the questions came up and you answered the questions, and if you were good at answering questions, you might win on the machine. For start, let me ask you the question, because now I might have been fooled. Was there ever such a machine that if you were good at answering questions, you would win?
You could win, and they class those as skill with prize machines.
Okay.
But what I tend to do, if you answered all the questions every time, you're obviously going to win all the money in the machine.
Yeah.
But what they do is when you're coming up to close to the jackpot questions to win the prize, it would ask you a question where there could be, gives you 4 answers, but it could be 2 or 3 of these answers could be correct.
Right.
So you might press A, it's A, B or C. Could be the correct answer. So there's no definitive as such. So depending on which one you press, it could say, no, that's wrong, and then click up, this was the answer. But hang on, let's get this bit right now. So there's 3 that could be the answer, but surely there's got to be one that is the actual answer. Or could they change it depending on every time? It's just on the way the question's worded. There was a famous one, it was who played Tommy in Pinball Wizard. Okay. But, it come up, Roger Daltrey?
Roger Daltrey,
Elton John.
Right.
So it could have been the 2, because it didn't say...
so they both did play it?
Because Roger Daltrey played the character Tommy, but Elton John played the song.
Yes.
So,
So if you said Roger Daltrey, you didn't win.
Yeah,
it's it's Elton John.
Yeah, if the machine wasn't due to pay out. So that's just the sort of thing it could come up. So, and it's just the way the question's worded.
So you couldn't really challenge that.
No.
But then you could never win either.
No. And someone complains to me and says, "Who played Tommy?" And they says, "I pressed Roger Daltrey." I said, "Yeah, but Elton John was the one who played the song."
Fantastic. What I do. So, and that was going to be my question, because obviously now with algorithms and everything like that, you get machines that the machine learn. That machine could figure out that you know something and then say, right, well, I'm going to ask questions that the fella doesn't know, because I can figure out what he does know.
Yeah.
And so it makes it even less likely you're going to win. So unless there was going to be a win element on there that you had to legally come to, it could make you never win.
No, and as I say, because it's a skill with prizes, it doesn't even come under the same legislation.
So that could do that.
It doesn't come under the same legislation as the gaming machines.
Got you.
Which are AWPs and club machines.
Got you. So that could then make you never win.
You could not. Yeah. It will pay out because it's got to. It's otherwise people are just not going to touch that machine again.
Yeah. So, but it knows I'll pay you a little out.
Yes.
For a person who, bloody hell, he's won, 100 quid or something, rather than the 64 million pound, whatever. Interesting. Yeah. So for you, I remember, I think you said once something about a fella came to you said, what have you come to the store in today? Or what have you come to the offices in today? He said, I've come on the bus. That
was my wife.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. That was my wife.
Right. So just explaining, if you want to live well, don't gamble.
That's it. Yes. Yeah. There are people that come across. They make their living on a gambling. Yeah. But I usually find this is a lot of advertising on Twitter and Instagram, and what they're doing is they're selling you tips, subscription service.
Gotcha.
So I don't believe. Now and again they will come up with a winner. They may have been with a trainer.
Yeah.
I says, but they're not making their money so much from the gambling side of it. They're making it from the subscription service.
Gotcha.
That's in my belief anyway.
Yeah. So what the wife did say, I should say, is the fella. The fella said, "What was it? How did?" No, you tell me.
Yeah, she says she's worked in Birmingham, and she had clients, and she pulled up today. Someone come on the bus And they says, oh, it's all right for you. She says, you know, you've got that. And she says, yeah. She says, I've worked for my car. She says, it's Porsche Cayenne she had.
Yeah.
She says, you know, if you done and worked, you know, you'd have to,
You came on the bus, but I came in this, so don't gamble type of thing. Yeah. So that's it's that stark way of explaining to people, I think, that works. And I like that when I heard it, because I think if you tell somebody don't gamble, he's not going to listen to you, is it? He's not going to listen to you.
I think with my wife's one, though, it was more, she's in the drugs work.
Right, okay.
And it was one of her clients,
right,
you know, so they're never going to have the money because they're spending their money on drugs or whatever, So
it's reward and
yes,
you know, sort of thing which you come to.
Yeah.
So, again, I wanted to do this show particularly because I see so many people who seem to suffer from this idea of gambling, who seem to think you can win. And I wanted a definitive that turned around and said, this is a man whose industry it is, and he's happy enough to say to you, you will not win.
Yeah.
And that's true.
Yes, 100%, yes.
And you're happy enough to say you will not win because you know he still won't stop.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, it's a drug. It's a drug. It's a drug. The gambling's a drug.
So in the time we've got left, because as you know it's bite-sized, how would you prevent somebody from doing it? Because, you know, there's been a fella's wife been on there recently on, I think it was Loose Women, you mentioned Loose Women before, and, you know, she didn't know he was gambling, and the next minute he's dead, he's hung himself, she don't know why, and then when she looks, he spent all the money over the house and he's got no money, and he's killed himself because he's ashamed, you know, and it's not a one-off.
No.
There's quite a few people doing this. So the question to my mind was, how do we stop that? I know she's got some sort of system in place, or trying to put a system in place to say you shouldn't gamble, but I don't think that's sufficient. I don't think that will stop anybody.
No.
What can you do?
It needs education. You know, you can't tell a kid when he's 12 or 13 because, you know, that may be glamorising it a little bit, which they see it on the TV and that.
Yes.
But when they're 15, 16, just before they're leaving school, there should be something, you know, whether somebody goes to the school and does a talk on the gambling, and, you know, and even get an ex-gambler or something along to say, you know, this is where I went with my life, this is what I've done it. And I think there's got to be a big crackdown. There should be a big crackdown on online gaming as well.
But is this putting you out of work though?
If it put me out of work now, you know, as I say, I've you know, I've done all right out of it. You know,
That's an understatement, ladies and gentlemen.
I've done okay, but I think with the online gaming, something really needs to be done because people now, they're gambling online. It's not as if they're actually taking money out of their pocket, so it's as if they're playing a game.
So they're not seeing it.
No, they're not seeing the cash. And I've recently read about people, what they're doing is they're going up to their overdraft limit on the card, and because it's not cleared straight away, what they're doing then is they can retake money as such. And they're doing that, and then they're getting I can't remember the actual thing, but the banks are actually cracking down on it and seeing it's been gambling, and they're actually closing the bank accounts down of these people now. But you know, once you've got this on your record as such, there's no banks are going to give you an account. And like you say, every day, you know, you do need a bank account now.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
for your bills.
Can't live without it.
Yeah. So it's
it's a difficult one, and unfortunately, like always, time is running out on us. But just on the very last one, I'm trying to think. See, this online game, it's not real because you don't see it. Nothing's coming out of your wallet that you can see. It plays it oftentimes, even in kids' games, they're playing this gambling now. So it's trained you all the way through. You've been trained at that process. So by the time you're 18, it's second nature. I hate that they do it on football, on corners, on this, on that, on the other. I was speaking to one fellow the other day, and I said, "What are you doing this gambling for?" And he said, "Oh, it makes the game more exciting." Well, if it wasn't exciting before, what's the point? So they're training people along this route. How can we, and I know you talked about schooling and the likes, but how can we control it from the other end, from the gambling end? from the fact that they can turn around and say, you can't gamble on football anymore. You can't. Is that feasible, or is it just not possible?
I don't think that's possible.
It's not feasible.
But I do think if they stop the advertisements on the television,
Okay.
Because I know from in 3 years' time they've just announced in the EFL gambling sponsors are not going to be allowed sponsorship on the shirts.
Oh, okay, good.
Which I find is really strange because
You still doing on the
the
TV?
EFL's sponsored by Sky Bet, you know, so it's all right for us, but it's not all right for you. So I know a lot of a lot of sponsorship money does come in for it, but you know they've said, let's say 3 years' time, there's going to be no gambling company sponsors on shirts.
So to end, what we can basically say is this thing's going to be with us, no matter what.
Yes. Yeah.
No matter what.
No.
And all you can advise people before they get into trouble, or can I ask you one last question? Do you think there are people who are basically orientated to it and you'll never save them, no matter what?
Yeah. Yes. I think, some people, whether it's been, from when their grandparents or, used to go down the bookies on a Saturday and, they've got it in there. It's been installed into them as such.
Yeah. So you're never going to help them?
No.
But
there should be more help for the people. Yeah. You've got Gamblers Anonymous, but there should be, they go around and sit in there with the gamblers at the end of the day who are still, got to get over the problem.
Fantastic. So, Carl, brilliant, absolutely fantastic. Is there anything you want to ask me?
No, as I say, the only thing is if anyone's got any questions or anything on the subjects, if I can answer them, I will answer them. And then you email me the questions and then I'll answer them best my
fantastic. Listen, listeners, ladies, gents, boys, girls, whatever terminology you want to use, if you have a problem with gambling and if you want to get in touch with me, Carl, do you want to put your email down or something like that?
I can put my email down, no
please.
problem.
I'll give your email so people know.
Yes,
just say it now.
Yeah, my email is slot27@gmail.com.
So if you want to get directly in touch with Carl, get him via his email, which you've heard, and he'll say it again because sometimes people forget.
Slot, SLOT, 27@gmail.com.
Directly into carlslot27gmail.com, and he will help you. This is a guy who's been in the industry at all levels. So not just a person who's been in one type of it, he's been in actually most types of it. He knows what this game is about. And as he says himself, he's done okay out of it. And he wants to basically say to people, there's only one winner. I don't want to put words in his mouth. And that winner is...
me.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll see you next week.
If you'd like to help Carlton keep producing the Black Spy podcast and receive episodes and information that's only available to Carlton's special Patreon agents, then you can donate as little as £3, €4 or $5 a month by signing up with Patreon. See the Black Spy podcast notes or Google Patreon Black Spy podcast and pledge your monthly amount. You can even win the opportunity to be a guest on the show. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe for free.
Here is a working class spy telling his stories, the secrets, the lives of spies. Feel free to message Carlton King on all socials and give this show 5 stars on Apple iTunes and subscribe so you never miss a single episode. For your ears only.
For a quarter of a century, I was a member of Her Majesty's Secret Intelligence Service.